Will the real USC please stand up? The Gamecock women's basketball team, ranked number 2 in the country, goes into LA and knocks off number 8 Southern Cal by a score of 69-52. Now, I know that public opinion is going to side with Southern Cal as being the real USC, but that is factually not true because South Carolina was a school before Southern Cal was. So we are the real USC. We played a basketball game and we backed it up. Now, this game was South Carolina's from the jump. It started off great. South Carolina was hitting all their shots. And then by the end of the first quarter, they just couldn't get anything going. It seemed like there was a lid on the hoop. They ended up ending the first quarter with a 20-16 lead. Not bad. They got outscored 14-12 in the second quarter. And that second quarter was probably the worst, not only the worst basketball that I've seen from them this season in just these, short 4 games that we've had so far, but that was one of their worst offensive performances in a long time. They just couldn't get the shots going. They were able to escape with a 2-point lead at halftime. And then in the second half, they were able to get away from Southern Cal. They were able to separate themselves. They had a 23-15 third quarter, and then they outscored Southern Cal 14-7. And this was coming off shutting out Clemson from the field and only allowing 2 points in the fourth quarter. So in the last 2 fourth quarters that South Carolina has played, they've allowed a total of 9 points. So this team's defense is absolutely insane. Now, coming into the season, uh, I knew that South Carolina was going to be one of the best teams in the country. Obviously, they just were in the national championship. We don't have to talk about how that game ended. But, Dawn Staley has done such a great job of revitalizing this program where we expect greatness every single season. So, with Ashlyn Watkins being out all year because she's taken the year off after missing most of last year with an injury, and then Chloe Kitts, being out for the year with an ACL injury, it's they're definitely lacking on their depth, and that's one of the things that South Carolina hung their hat on a lot the last couple of years. South Carolina is always bringing out fresh girls. They're always subbing out. They're always making sure that their players are fresh, and there's no real superstar that's above everybody else. There's teams across the country, whether it's Juju Watkins or Hannah Hidalgo or Paige Becker. She's no longer in the league. She's in the WNBA now. But it seems like Lauren Betts with UCLA. There's always these girls that are cut above everyone else on their team, and a lot of these teams have superstars, and they're marketable, and they're why a lot of people tune into their games. The reason people tune into South Carolina is to see a consistent championship contending team, and a team that is more about the collective of the entire team than just one individual. The sum of their parts are greater than any one individual. And that's what I love about what Don Staley has ran, because with NIL in college sports, it's very easy for the athletes to get their bag, and they deserve it because they're the ones putting in the work that's making all these coaches and schools millions of dollars. So I'm for the players getting paid, but it creates a scenario which they're just trying to chase the bag, and I can't blame them if a lot of them aren't already rich. You're trying to get every dollar that you can. I'm not blaming the players in this situation. It's just a result of the product of the system that they're in. But Don Staley is one of those coaches that takes me back to the old days of college sports where you would go because the coach is so good. that the most important player in South Carolina is the head coach, Dawn Staley. She runs the ship. She is in control of everything. So why I resonate so much. Obviously, I went to the school. I resonate with her so much is because she creates an environment for the players to not only be successful and try and compete for a championship in college, but set them up for success in the future. I mean, just look at Asia Wilson. She is by far and away the best, not just women's basketball player, but one of the best overall basketball players in the world. And it's because she got taught by Dawn Staley and she taught her everything that she knows. Not taking away anything from Asia Wilson. She's amazing. But it definitely helps that she went to Carolina and she was taught by Dawn Staley and she was able to mold her career and set her up for future success. But anyway, I went on a huge tangent. Sorry about that. I apologize. But getting back to this game, it was kind of hard for South Carolina to really get a lot of things going offensively. And the same could definitely be said about Southern Cal. And this is back to back games where South Carolina has not even scored 70 points. They scored 65 against Clemson and only 69 against USC. But to be fair, USC is also a top 10 team. And South Carolina has been able to get away with these lackluster shooting games because their defense is that good. And one of the players that I want to spotlight is Medina Okote, the Mississippi State transfer from Kenya. She is fantastic. She was great grabbing rebounds. She had 15 rebounds. She only had 6 points, but she's a 6'6" center. And as I mentioned, with Chloe Kitts and Ashlyn Watkins missing all of this year, they really needed that post player. And Joyce Edwards has been stepping it up offensively. She's been one of our highest scorers this season. But Medina Okote has really done a great job of being a great defensive anchor. And speaking of this defense, we can't overlook how many blocks they had. They had 7 blocks. You know, Southern Cal had 7 blocks as well, but this team is just great down in the paint. And one of the things, as I mentioned, their bench scoring is not great. They're not a very deep team this year. South Carolina is, like I mentioned, as in years past. Um, they only had 6 bench points from Mariam Dowda and Agot McKeer. And I've been a fan of Agot's game as a freshman. She's really small. She's 6'1". They don't, you know, I mean, they don't list her weight, but it seems like she's like 100 pounds. She's kind of short, well, at least in compared to the other players on the team. And she's just really skinny, but she's shifty. And I could see a future with her on this team where she's a good scorer. She's just always running. I'm a big fan of her game, and hopefully in these next couple of years, she's able to really step her game up and really become a more complete and well-rounded player. But I definitely see the the makings of a really good player. Um, and it was a tough day for Tessa Johnson, at least early on. She just could not make a shot, but she was able to finish with 14 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists. And obviously, if I'm going to be talking about this team, I don't think this team would be as good as they are without Raven Johnson. 14 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists as a point guard. And I want to say that this is going to sound like an insult, but it's not. It's definitely a compliment. Raven Johnson does everything well as a player except shoot the ball well. And you're going to think that I'm insulting her, but I'm not. Her jump shot just hasn't been able to fall the last couple years. Most notably, we remember Caitlin Clark just waving her off defensively in the national championship the first time that they had, not national championship, the Final Four, the first time that they met. and that was the only loss of the season. And of course, Caitlin Clark was waving off Raven Johnson, not respecting her jump shot because at that point there was no reason to respect Raven Johnson's jump shot because she didn't have one. And I have to say, I am very impressed with the way that Raven Johnson has stepped up this year because she's part of the reason why Malaysia Fulwiley transferred to LSU. I was so high on Malaysia Fulwiley. I loved her so much as a player. She's incredibly talented. I think I was defending her as being the best player in women's college basketball, the way that she's able to move and score. And I think she's a tremendous player. But she was never going to start, and she's not even starting at LSU this year, which I think is telling that she has all this raw talent, but she just hasn't put it quite together yet. And the reason why she left us because she wasn't going to start over Raven Johnson, and I didn't really love that, and I was gonna say like, Raven, if you're gonna have a generational player like Malaysia Fulwiley, leave this program because she's not gonna start. You better get your ass in the gym and make those shots, and you better improve your jump shot. And you got to give credit where credit is due. She has absolutely done that. She's shooting 50% from the field so far this year. And she's doing her thing as a senior. I was waiting for this last part of her game to develop, and so far it has. She's great running up the court, making sure everyone's in position. She's great defensively, as I just mentioned. She had 11 rebounds. So if she's up at the rim and she's missing a shot, she's at least grabbing her rebounds. And she's great defensively. She's always up in people's face. She's a fantastic player, and the fact that she's able to be more well-rounded is just gonna really set this team apart. Now, I think that next year is gonna be even better for South Carolina because they're gonna have not Juju Watkins, Ashlyn Watkins back, and Chloe Kitts back, and although they're gonna lose Medina Oko, they're gonna end Tanaya Latson, the transfer from uh, Florida State. They're still going to be a really good team, and I'm really excited to see what South Carolina has next year because I think that this team is going to be great this season. But like I mentioned, with their bench scoring and their lack of depth, I don't know how good they're really going to be. Like what their ceiling is. Um, I don't know if they're going to be a championship contending team, but they're going to have a great season like they always do. And this was one of two games that I really cared about South Carolina winning this season. I really wanted them to win this game, and the only other game that I care about is the game against LSU. I want them to beat Malaysia Fulwiley. I hate LSU. It really ramped up when they employed Brian Kelly, and just Paul Skeens and Livy Dunn just rubbed me the wrong way as just like a PR relationship. I don't even really consider them to be a real couple, but that's just my opinion. Whatever they do in their private life is their business. But huge win for South Carolina, and especially with them having to go across the country because last year, if you remember, they went on the road. They flew all across the country to LA to play UCLA, and of course UCLA ended up going to the Final Four. So it wasn't a bad loss by any stretch of the imagination, but I was a little shell shocked from going across the country. And one thing you have to say about Dawn Staley is that no matter what, she won't duck any competition. She's not afraid to have her girls go on a plane, go across the country, go across the world. They've already played in Paris. They're going to play in Paris next year to start the season. And they signed up to play UConn for the next 3 seasons in a row. So, whatever your opinion on Dawn Staley is, which it better be a good one because she's amazing and she's a queen and she's perfect, she will not duck competition, and she will schedule those tough road games and non-conference games. And she will do everything to make sure that and her team are amongst one of the best teams in the country. And the only way that you're going to be the best is if you beat the best. And you can't beat the best if you don't play the best. So shout out to Dawn Staley for never ducking competition. But that does it for this video. If you like it, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you know when I post. And if you want to follow me on all the other social medias, you can follow me at Kevin Blakicki on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Much love. Have a great day.